All right, well, it's 6 o'clock now, so let's get started. If anyone needs anything, let me know. I'll put us on the mute button just for comfort. And then from there, I have the chat box up. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Whether you unmute yourself and ask, it doesn't bother me. If you want to type it in the chat, that works too. Whatever's good for you is good for me. And then we'll come back. Get comfortable here. All righty, good evening. If you'd like to start on a pillow or blanket and sit, you're welcome to prop the tailbone in any way. If you'd like to begin your practice laying down, that is great as well. And then you might use some props to support the body as you lay down. And then from there, we'll just take our little movements, however you'd like to start practice, no right or wrong. And then whenever you're ready, you can close your eyes and begin to come to stillness, just so that we can take a few breaths here. And as we use these breaths to guide our awareness inward, to draw our senses in towards the body, focusing a little bit more deeply on our internal space. Maybe even taking a sweep of consciousness, allow the body to soften, front body, back body, just letting go of any unnecessary tension. And then for our practice this evening, I'd like us to honor our awareness or to honor our attention here. Because our attention is essential for connection. Right? Wherever we're going to put our attention towards is what we're going to connect with. And we can debate, we could say, or you'll tier or direct certain things to be beneficial or not beneficial. But wherever your attention goes, that's what becomes essential. That's what becomes your connection. So as we honor our presence here this evening in our practice, honoring our awareness and attention, noticing how our attention is essential for the connection of the physical stretch, of this meditative aspect. And maybe you can compare some other experiences within your life as well. And what happens when we don't have that same attention? What happens if the awareness drifts or if it's not motivated? Noticing how this attention can help fuel our inner spark or inner desires. It doesn't have to only be essential for connection. It might be essential for something else that you'd like to welcome into your practice. And so with that in mind, let's open up our space with a few cleansing breaths. Together, let's inhale through the nose. And open the lips to exhale. Again, like that, deep breath in. And a deep breath out. This third time, you might take another cleansing breath, or maybe join me for the sound of Om. Hands can stay relaxed within the lap, or hands can gather into prayer. Together, we'll take an inhale. Om. Very gently bowing the chin towards the chest, allowing the breath or the vibrations to settle within the heart space, to reverberate off the walls of the inner body, and to seal our intentions for practice. And then whenever you're ready, you can slowly open the eyes and bring the hands away, welcoming ourselves here. So If you were laying down, you'll come back up to sit. And then we're going to start in a forward fold. We're going to allow ourselves to start in deer. So once you're sitting in that cross-legged shape, you might, we're going to draw the left shin in front of us and the right knee behind us. But you can decide today if you're going to fold over the shin or if you're going to make it more of a twist. So if you were to take your blocks and stack our props how we normally would do, feel free to fold over this left shin where this back knee and foot can relax in any particular way, any shape. If you would like to explore more of the twist within deer, then you'll continue to walk yourself to the left. This back right knee might move a little closer then to the body as you fold. So feel free to kind of try both, and then you can choose which one you'd like to explore this evening. Whether we fold directly over the shin or a little bit over the thigh. Of course, if you need anything, let me know. We'll begin to close our eyes and settle into stillness. Observing these first sensations. Maybe noticing pretty quickly how our attention will be essential for this connection of practice. Where we'll notice the breath and notice the inner gaze, and notice the body softening. Taking your time here and gently letting go of unnecessary tension or unnecessary control. We can almost compare our attention as our own direct flashlight. What are we sharing our time with? What are we shedding light upon? This direct flashlight of attention, revealing sensations of stretch, thoughts, feelings, ideas, memories, the whole body's experience, really. And we'll stay in deer for a few more breaths. Noticing what else our attention might pick up, observe. And if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But once you're ready to release, we'll gently press down into the floor or into our props. We'll start to lift up through the head and chest. Maybe slowly unraveling as you turn to the right. Your hands can help the legs release, and you might directly forward fold. Your shins might cross and the upper body can find some movement. Maybe you're coming to lay down. Maybe you're in child's pose. Taking as many counter movements as you'd like. Just a free expression for the body. And then we'll take this into our pause of rebound, whether you're sitting, laying in some other shape. Noticing the subtle sensations. Noticing the shifts with an awareness. Where it might seem opaque in the beginning, it's becoming more and more transparent. If you'd like to stay in rebound a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. But whenever you're ready, you're welcome to awaken out of rebound as well. So you might take some movements for the arms and legs. We'll eventually come back to a seated shape if you're not already there, so that we can take deer on the opposite side. So again, we'll come to sit, and then from that cross-legged shape, the right knee and shin will come in front of us, left knee behind us, where you might be propping your tailbone, or at least the right glute if helpful, the back ankle facing any direction, toes facing any direction, whatever's most comfortable. And then again, you have that option to fold directly over the right shin, or you might walk to the right a little bit. And then as you fold more over the knee or thigh, the left leg could come a little closer. But you'll find your own degrees and your own angles here. Whether you fold directly to the forearms, stay a little more upright and have your palms flat. No right or wrong. And whenever you're ready, we'll close the eyes. And welcome ourselves here. Noticing sensation of stretch. Our attention might be highlighting some focal points. But really this webbing of tissue is moving all in one piece. The front tissues are compressing or squishing as the back tissues are elongating, at least for this shape as we fold. You might let your attention settle into one area and then notice something different later on. And we'll continue to soften. Letting our attention assist the release of the stretch. And we'll stay here in deer for just a few more breaths as we continue to observe. And if you'd like to stay in deer a little longer, you're more than welcome to. But whenever you're ready, we'll gently begin to press down into the floor, into the props. And as we start to release from the body, we might this time walk ourselves to the left as on one knee unbends and then the other. Whether you're taking movements for the upper body, movements for the lower body, your hands might massage along some muscle groups. Maybe your knees are going to hug in some way. Just doing whatever feels most comforting to the body here. And of course, pausing and rebound whenever you're ready. Noticing the subtle sensations. Maybe even noticing the comfort and being able to choose what direction you'll face, what movements are right, what movements are wrong. Giving your undivided attention to yourself here. And if you'd like to stay a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. Or whenever you're ready, we'll start to take some gentle movements here so that we can arrive back to a seated shape. We will be laying back down, but just so that we can transition and move some props around, we're just going to sit up for a second. So we're going to allow ourselves to lay down in reclined butterfly, where the soles of the feet together, knees out wide. But I'll give us the option that if you would like to, and or if you have blocks, you can use one of your blocks to also work within the fascia behind the neck and those areas of the skull, the base of the skull, top of the neck, in between the ears. So if you are going to do that, you might use, pillows and blankets then to prop the outer thighs, if that's helpful for your stretch. Or if not, that's okay too, right? You might not need them. But if you are going to use the block, you'll lift up the hair if it's long, and then you'll find the base of the skull there, right at the edge of the block. The block will be at that second standing height or maybe completely flat. You can do whatever is best for your neck. And if you're not going to do this, then that's okay. Just take butterfly. But if you are, you'll get this little extra stretch. You might turn the chin side to side so you can close the eyes and tilt the chin to the left, tilt the chin to the right, lifting the chin, tucking the chin, moving it in circles as you just explore any tight areas of tissue in this section of the body. If you find a sweet spot, you're more than welcome to just hover there. But then whenever you're ready, we'll allow the eyes to close. Arms might rest near. Maybe they rest to the floor. Maybe they rest up above the head. Having the opportunity for our attention to help highlight certain areas. Where can we release? Where can we soften? Rather than creating the narrative of, ugh, my jaw is always tight, right? We can switch the narrative and say, my attention is expressing that my jaw is tight. Now I know, and I have that option to release. My attention is helping me notice my body more. Giving ourselves that opportunity to create deeper connection. Releasing into layers of muscles, layers of bone. So staying present here. We'll continue to stay in butterfly. But if you are using that block underneath the head, take maybe another breath wherever you are. And then as we lift up one hand to remove the block, the other hand can catch the head and just gently place the head back down to the floor. We can have a little rebound for the upper neck and shoulders. We'll stay here in butterfly for just a few more breaths. And then whenever you're ready, our arms and hands can begin to gently flow down towards the hips. And as we hold on to our outer thighs, we can help the knees begin to lift with each foot coming flat to the floor. The body might bring the feet a little wider, and windshield wipering the knees side to side could feel comforting. If you'd like to hug the knees into the chest. Maybe even reach your forehead to the knees and lengthen from the back of the neck. And as you take any other counter movements until you're ready to transition into rebound. Or we can take that moment to observe all subtle sensation, honoring the body's function and system, to let that experience settle into the muscle memory and neural memory of the body. And just pausing to observe. And letting the body soften, even in rebound. If you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to. Or whenever you're ready, we'll gently bring the feet flat to the floor. And as we roll to one side of the body, we'll start to push down to come back up to sit. Taking our time, no rush. Finding any counter movements along the way, even as we awaken from rebound. And then from here, we'll transition into dragonfly. So now that we're going to come back to sit for another forward fold, you might take a blanket. You might take a tailbone. You might take a blanket and prop your tailbone here. Whether that just gives you a little bit more lift or just supports the back in any way, it could seem helpful. Using your blocks, pillows, bolsters, and things, stacking them however you'd like, whether things are more horizontal, maybe elevated, maybe more vertical, right? Whatever it could be, so that the forehead is supported, where the spine might be more neutral. You might hinge a little bit at the hips, or maybe the spine does offer a little bit more of a round. It just depends on sensation and where the body is most comfortable in that uncomfortable way. But as the legs come into that V shape, you can let your ankles and feet relax. If your knees are feeling extra tight and they're staying bent, you might take pillows or blankets and prop the backs of the knees. If your legs ever hyperextend, then I would still recommend, for the opposite extreme, to still prop the backs of the knees. And we'll follow those internal cues to take any readjustments. And then we'll close our eyes, welcoming ourselves here. And as we observe these sensations of stretch, no right or wrong place. If the body is riding its edge, you're more than welcome to stay. If you feel like you're ever passing that point of the edge, then it's a good indication to readjust. As we allow our attention to tune in and listen, offering the body simplicity, and the simplicity of this framework offers clarity. Clarity to the body and clarity to the breath. And clarity to the mind and heart. We'll hang out in dragonfly for a few more breaths. Maybe taking one more full cycle of breath. And then whenever you're ready, we'll gently begin to press down, slowly lifting up our head and chest. You might even just stay there for a moment until the body is ready to move, if at all. Taking any counter stretches, counter movements, counter twists. It could be the biggest of movements or maybe the smallest of movements, whatever will be most comforting. Eventually, you'll be guiding the body into its rebound pose. In the same ways, when we want to quench our thirst, right, our rebound is that same type of sensation, where the body gets to neutralize, the nervous system gets to recalibrate, pausing in observance. Our attention and perspectives can only expand. And softening even in your rebound. And taking this meditative moment to check in. And then, of course, if you'd like to stay in rebound a little longer, you're more than welcome to. Or whenever you're ready, we'll gently press down. We might take a few movements to awaken from rebound, whatever those might be. And then we'll start to come back to a seated shape just so that we can rearrange our props as we talk about the next pose, the next shape itself. So We're going to have options with this because essentially our goal is to come into cactus with the elbows bent or trident, depending on what shape you want to talk about. But there's a couple different ways. So you might take your blocks. This will be, I guess, a little bit more, you can say intense because the blocks are going to be higher and you have the edges of the block, but you're going to lay down flat here. And I'll show you what that will look like as your head is supported here and then the rest of your spine. But in case you don't have blocks or you don't want to use blocks, then you're going to fold a blanket, right, to kind of mirror that, right? The blanket will be more of like a vertical line. So again, your spine will rest there and then the arms will melt off. The thing with the blanket though, or you might have a bolster that you'd like to do this with, you may or may not need, right, an extra pillow or blanket just so that the back of the head is supported. If you're using blocks, the head will be supported with the lift of the block, but a blanket sometimes with the squish, you might need something extra there. Okay, so feel free to use any setup that you'd like. I'll show it with the blocks first though, since that's a little bit more intricate. So essentially, once you come to lay down, just finding center, you might have to come up and come back down. But you're going to want your head to be supported on that top block. Wherever the second block meets your spine, it's going to be different for everybody depending on how tall we are. So that's fine. From there, though, the arms are going to come out in that cactus shape. They might hover, right? So maybe cactus, right, isn't the best place to start. Maybe you unbend the elbows a little bit and they make like a wing or a relaxed type of T, right? So the cactus could be something that you work your way up towards during the stretch. One arm might be higher than the other. So just do what's best for each shoulder. And then as you kind of get yourself situated, you might start here with the legs out long. If your tailbone or lower back need some extra support, right? Blanket, pillow there. Instead of having the legs out long, sometimes bending into the knees, bringing the feet flat on the floor can seem, or, be a little bit more helpful or supportive. Maybe the feet walk a little wider and the knees knock in towards each other. The different placements of the legs can cause different threads of tissue to engage. So you might notice different sensations. Feel free to explore what is most interesting to you this evening. And if you need anything, let me know. As the hands relax, finding space between the fingers, where our wrists can soften, forearms releasing all the way down into the creases of the elbows. Letting your shoulder blades relax and the collarbone soften. We can imagine our heart center, maybe even sense the fascia around the system and even soften there. And then as we gently let go of any unnecessary tension, drifting back and forth between observing the body and then maybe observing our awareness, letting our attention dance around. And checking in with the breath, breathing as quietly or as deeply as you prefer. And taking a few more breaths exactly where you are. Noticing any reclaimed space from the tissues here. And whenever you're ready, before moving the arms, you might first awaken the legs. Maybe it's moving into the toes and into the ankles. Eventually, knees bending, and feet coming flat to the floor, where you might open the knees and close the knees. Any natural movements as one arm lowers down by the hips and then the other. And just maybe even pausing there. As we let ourselves lean to one side of the body, you might just roll off your props and rest on the side body. Or you might feel inclined to press down into the floor and take more of a forward fold rebound shape, or maybe at least a breath there. Eventually, you might roll back down anyway as you rest on your side body. But take as many counter movements as you want. Sometimes the body wants more movement. Sometimes the body needs little to none, and we'll just arrive into rebound. Just noticing any fresh breaths along the joints of the body, within the spine. Maybe feeling held within your attention and awareness. And softening even in this moment to pause. And feeling the imprints of the previous pose. And then whenever you're ready, we'll gently press down into the floor so that we can arrive back into a seated shape. Take any movements along the way. Maybe the body guiding you into a quick child's pose or a round or two of cow and cat. Right? Sometimes the body is calling for movement, especially as the tissues reclaim space. The body wants to move around. The body wants to expand. And as you're doing that, I'm going to talk about the next stretch that we're going to come into. It's going to kind of be two variations. Well, you'll have the variation to stay in option one. And then after we spend a few more moments in option one, then you can kind of shift into variation two. So I'll explain all of that right now. We're going to take this to our bellies. And again, we're going to use our blocks. And if you're not, again, there will be a bunch of different options. So we're going to start on the belly, and we're almost going to take, not almost, we're going to take a more of a restorative Shalambhasana, but or a restorative locust pose, but when you're here long enough, you can start to notice subtle sensations. So it really does start to turn into a stretch. So as we allow ourselves to come down to our belly, option one, and there are like 3 options just in option 1, will be to guide these blocks underneath your rotator cuffs, essentially, right underneath the shoulders. And as you do that, the head will come down and will just relax. Your palms might face up, your palms might face down. Right? One hand might need one variation, the other hand might need the other. When the blocks are at the second height, if it's too high, you can take a pillow or a blanket underneath your forehead. But if it still feels maybe not comfortable in a way that's good for your back, let the blocks go completely flat. Let the blocks go completely flat. I always hit my wall with my fingernails. But anyway, blocks can go completely flat as the forehead lowers down. Right? This is going to be less sensation because you're closer to the floor. Right? But you still might notice some slight stretch. In the event that none of these options are beneficial to the body, then can you remove the blocks, take a pillow or a blanket, support your forehead. You might need to fold it up and just let the hands relax back long with no blocks or anything underneath. Your feet can be as close together or as wide as your mat. Allow the forehead to even elongate along your floor so that the neck can relax. You might walk your head up a little bit more, growing from the shoulders. So we're all in some sort of variation here. We're going to have the option to transition into something else a little bit later, but let's start here and arrive into the body. Feel free to take any adjustments. Again, feet can be as close together, or you can walk your legs as wide into a V shape, almost like dragonfly. And as we breathe into the shape, notice what you observe. It might be subtle sensations within the back, within the vertebrae, within the muscles of the torso. Beginning to soften if you haven't already. Depending on what you're noticing, how your fascial tissue is engaging here. Whether you feel something on both sides of the back, I usually feel it just on the right side in the middle of my spine, more in the thoracic region. It's mesmerizing how you might only feel sensation in one place while the rest of the body is softening. This duality of comfort and discomfort. And just taking another breath or two here. And then we'll have the option to either stay exactly where you are, or you can transition into Sphinx. And before you even move, I'll at least try to paint the image so that you can decide if you want to move. But Sphinx is where we're going to bring our forearms down. And as you press your forearms down, the chest lifts up a little bit more. So now the extension of the spine will deepen. If that's something you'd like to explore, feel free. If not, stay here. If you are exploring Sphinx, your palms will come close, each elbow will bend. You'll lift up the chest just a bit to remove the blocks, and then your forearms come flat to the mat. With your forearms flat, you'll walk your elbows in towards the chest. And again, we'll just hover here and pause. Your chin can be neutral. You'll drop your chin lightly. If you try this and realize you'd like to come back to the previous shape, feel free. But we won't be here too much longer. Take another opportunity to relax through the muscles of the face and the jaw, releasing through the torso and the belly, relaxing your glutes and the quads so that the knees, calves, and ankles can soften. Wherever you are, just a few more breaths. And then very gently, we'll begin to lower one arm down at a time. Maybe your hands or forearms stack so that they're a little pillow for the forehead. Maybe your hands just rest up above you or back behind you. Forehead can come to the floor. If you'd like to, bend into the knees, kick up the feet, and you'll windshield wiper the feet from side to side. Rocking into the hips if that's comforting for you. You might stay where you are. You might roll onto your back. You might arrive into child's pose. So take as many counter movements as you'd like. Maybe your movements will just transition the body into its rebound. Feeling the echoes of the fascia. The resetting of the physical and energetic body here. Just noticing any shifts of breath, shifts of awareness. And if you'd like to stay here a little longer, you're more than welcome to do so. Or if you're ready to transition, we might press down so that we can come back up to a seated shape. And even through the release of rebound, the body might want to find a few movements. And again, cow and cat could feel exciting. Maybe down dog or just natural movements to the body. It doesn't have to necessarily have a name. Okay, and then whenever you're ready, we're going to talk about toe stretch. So now toe stretch, when we bend into our knees, sit on our toes, sit on our heels as the toes tuck. If that's not something that will interest you today, you can always come to sit flat. And during our time of toe stretch, you don't have to go into toe stretch just yet because I didn't start the timer. But if you instead, you can always sit long with the legs long here, you can take your right foot and hold it over your left foot. And then just with that movement of the ankle, that's going to cause some stretching here. Because we're taking tonight toe stretch and ankle stretch, during the time of toe stretch, right foot will just hover here over the left foot, stay there and breathe. And then when we're in ankle stretch, you'll do the opposite side. Okay? So whether you're here or in your toe stretch, feel free to find your shape. In toe stretch, you might have your blocks in front of you so that your forearms can be supported. You might even just lean all the way to the floor. Wherever you are, hands softening, chin is neutral, or it might tuck in gently. Finding your breath here. Notice if any clenching creates disconnection. With the presence of our attention, we can foster connection, healing any spaces of disconnect, honoring our present moment within the stretch. And just a few more breaths. And then whenever you're ready, we'll all slowly begin to release from whatever variation you're in. You'll unravel your toes, you'll release your ankles. Now, if you're in tabletop, you have the option to drum the tops of the feet on the floor. But in any other variations, everybody can shake the feet a little bit or roll the ankles, flex and point into the toes. Again, taking any movements for the spine, for the arms, for the torso. And then we'll let ourselves transition into ankle stretch. Now, if you're sitting with the legs long, this time you'll take your left foot over your right and you'll just hover there to stretch. If you're going to take ankle stretch, then you'll draw the tops of the feet to the floor. Heels are close as we sit on our heels here. Of course, you can always come into Virasana with one block or two blocks. That could still give you a stretch depending on your body. If you are sitting on your heels but would like a blanket or pillow here, just to feel a little bit more supported, you can. Finally, the knees do not have to lift up at all, but if they do, you might take some props underneath your shins so that with the lift, you might increase sensation of stretch. And then again, let's let the hands and arms relax, shoulders releasing. You'll soften your eyes whenever you're ready. And just breathing into the body here. And staying present, remembering the attention draws that inner flashlight. Our attention is essential for connection of any kind. Just a few more breaths, an ankle stretch here. And then whenever you're ready, we'll gently begin to bring the palms down to the floor as we hinge off of our knees and off of our feet. Again, everybody can release the ankles, taking any movements for the feet and toes. That might transition into some more movements for the body, for the torso and such. No right or wrong. The feet might continuously feel those rebound sensations. Sometimes there's heat or coolness, and your hands might massage along the inner ankles, the inner feet. But as we release from that time, no rush at all. Love it, love it, love it. All the counter movements. It's the best part of the yoga. We'll just close with a twist before we come into Shavasana. So within our twist, you might bring some pillows and blankets around you if you know that you like to use those supports within your twist. We'll start with option 1, which is supine. So we're going to twist to the right so that the left leg is on top first. We'll allow ourselves to lay down. Maybe you're picking up your tailbone, and as you scooch to the left, you'll hug the knees in as you twist to the right, opening the arms out, whether it's in cactus or cactus or T. Now, if you don't want to supine here, you're more than welcome to take a pinwheel twist. The left leg will be higher than the right, and as the left leg stays up towards the chest, the right knee will lower. Both knees bent is a good way to describe this pinwheel, but maybe the right leg straightens. That could ease the twist a little bit more, and it's a good place to start. You might have some pillows or blankets underneath the knees, in between the thighs, underneath any hips. You might use a pillow to support the shoulders or the back of the head. So no rush at all, but we'll stay here for some time, and then we'll transition into the opposite side, and then we'll close class. Beginning to soften through the arms and shoulders. And softening along this left side body. The right side body closest to the floor. Relaxing through our hips and glutes. Noticing the patterns of our fascia, where they might clench more, where they might already be relaxed. And we'll just stay here for a few more breaths. And then very gently, our arms can lower down. We'll start to help this left leg unravel, and then the right leg unravel. And almost like waking up from a dream, the body might naturally stretch and find some movement. And the feet can press down to the floor to lift up the hips, settle them back down as we neutralize the spine. And we can basically take this or treat it like a double stretch. So we won't rebound in between here. We're going to take our twist to the left side now. So as you guide the hips to the right, the knees can come into the chest as we might supine to the left, or taking more of a pinwheel twist, the right knee hugging in as it twists, and then the left knee is lower towards the mat. Left leg could straighten from there if helpful. As we again twist through the shoulders, letting the arms relax, and any angle here, one higher than the other, is fine. And then closing our eyes and arriving. Relaxing through the jaw and tongue. Relaxing through the sides of the neck and the throat. And supporting this fascial release as the body softens. Observing the experience of the twist for a few more breaths. Staying present in the shape. And then very gently, we'll begin to awaken. There will be movements for the arms and movements for the legs as we unravel from the twist. Maybe taking any cleansing breaths. And through your transitions and through your counter movements, releasing from the twist as we prepare for our final rebound, our time for active rest in Shavasana. Now you might use those pillows or blankets that are around you if that's comfortable. And taking Shavasana in any way, on the back, on the belly, on the side body, just doing whatever is best for you this evening. And as we allow ourselves to gravitate towards stillness, the eyes can soften once more. And as we absorb our practice, we'll welcome ourselves into the quiet space of Shavasana. Very gently, let's begin to deepen our breath. And drawing ourselves back into the presence of our bodies as we notice the placements of the hands and feet. Within our own time, we can welcome some gentle movement as we awaken from Shavasana. Through the fingers and toes, the wrists and ankles. It could feel good to reach the arms up and above the head, to take a full body stretch. Maybe the arms wrapping around the chest and just moving the shoulder blades in an opposite direction. And from there, as the knees bend in, feet can come flat to the floor. You might now hug the knees into the chest. And as you wrap around the whole body, you can rock gently side to side. Eventually rolling to the left or to the right. You'll rest on your side body, taking a fresh breath there. Where you might stay in end practice or gently press down into the floor as we come back up to sit. But of course, closing practice however you'd like. Once still, we'll reclose the eyes just to take that moment of reflection. Noticing the reclaimed space within the body, the expansion within the breath, and clarity in the heart and mind. Hands can stay relaxed within the lap, or hands can gather into prayer at heart center, where we'll close with a cleansing breath or the sound of Om. But together we'll breathe in. Om. And gently as we bow the chin to the chest. Thank you for practicing with me this evening, being elevated through yoga. Namaste.